Now, you may recognize Mark Cuban, the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks. He's outspoken and never afraid to say what's on his mind. Now, meet his younger brother, Brian, a man with an incredible story. At 51, Cuban is finally living the life he wants to live. But getting to this point nearly killed him.
I'm Brian Cuban, and you are watching The Revolution Rant. No! How the hell has Lindsay Lohan avoided jail? I'm Brian Cuban, and it's time to rant.
Call it the Cuban Revolution.
Are you an idiot?
Brian Cuban on top of the world. Lawyer, host of his own TV legal brief, successful blogger.
Of course, she has the high-powered and expensive lawyers like me.
Add to that list a man who knows what rock bottom looks like.
I am a drug-addicted, I am a coke-addicted, alcoholic, steroid-addicted lawyer who just blanked in his pants. Does it get much lower than that?
He's talking about the 30-plus years he spent abusing himself.
I actually absolutely despise myself.
Cuban moved to Dallas in the late 1980s to be closer to his brother Mark. That's when he began dabbling with cocaine. He later got a DWI, but things didn't get really bad until January of 2000.
The just train wreck downward spiral started when Mark bought the Mavs. I went from no one liked me, boom, 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 to all of a sudden, all of a sudden I didn't have to approach anyone. I was this good-looking, popular guy. Who cares that it was totally superficial?
Cuban says he can trace his problems to his Pittsburgh middle school in the 1970s. I
was obese, and I was severely bullied at school. The incident that stands out in my mind, and I might get emotional here, the incident that stands out in my mind is I was pantsed. Do you know what being pantsed is? And I was pantsed like you've never been pantsed.
He'd been walking home from school with a group of boys who turned on him. They ended up tearing at his pants, leaving them in tatters, and then throwing them into the street.
So here's this fat kid in his underwear. I had to go out in the street, gather them up, basically pulled them in a ball, the shreds, and walked a mile home naked in my underwear.
By the time he started college, he was starving himself. He lost 70 pounds in 6 months, but he says he still didn't like what he saw in the mirror. He began running. He ran 20 miles per day, 5 days per week. And that's when, in addition to the anorexia, he became bulimic.
After I would run, I would come home, I would eat a giant bag, a 2-pound bag of peanut M&Ms, or order a large pizza from Domino's, head straight to the toilet.
Fast forward to the early 2000s. He was taking antidepressants to fight depression, black market steroids to change his body. He'd married and divorced 3 times, and he was still drinking and using cocaine. But he says none of it worked. Nothing
changed the image in the mirror, no matter how much Coke, how much Xanax, no much alcohol I drank. I woke up in the morning, I hated myself even more. It was the same guy in the mirror.
He says he doesn't remember sending out the emails to his family threatening to kill himself or the email to a friend asking for bullets to a gun. But he does remember his younger brother, Jeff, coming to his rescue.
Mark was out of town, so Mark was on his way back. And it was Jeff. Excuse me.
His brothers tried to get him into rehab, but Cuban refused to go. Instead, he stayed on that same destructive path until April 9th, 2007, when he woke up 2 days after a friend's bachelor party with no memory of what had happened. That was his rock bottom, and the day he started a 12-step recovery program.
They say your low point is always your best point if you survive it, and it's true.
Cuban is writing a book called Shattered Image to help other men with addictions understand and eating disorders and body dysmorphic disorders understand that they are not alone. He expects it to be published next year, and there's much more of my interview with Cuban. Really a fascinating story. CBS DFW.com.